Disney Star Wars fans will always accept and like mediocre crap, no matter how smelly or how tasty it might be. Welcome back to AhSoKa of the Dead, my nice little channel here. I'm going to be reviewing AhSoKa Episode 5, The Shadow Warrior today. There will be spoilers in this episode, so just be warned, click off this video now if you don't want to be spoiled. To be fair, to be absolutely fair, I actually didn't hate this episode. I found it kind of enjoyable, actually. I was expecting, well, a nostalgia trip that Anakin was going to take AhSoKa on to really kind of distract everybody from what is a simple plot. And I was right. However, I didn't think that distraction would be as enjoyable as it was. And credit where credit is due here, I will say Dave Filoni does pull off making us feel, or at least myself feel, a little bit of an emotion. For the first time in Disney Star Wars in a long time, I felt some kind of emotion about something. So congrats to episode 5 of AhSoKa. You managed to get me to have an ounce of some sort of feeling, and I was kind of excited. I actually enjoyed, spoilers by the way, I enjoyed the lightsaber fights between Anakin and AhSoKa in whatever that little world was. Now, here's the thing. I will be complimenting this episode on the things that it does right, what it does good, what I liked about it. But I'm not going to say that this show is good just because Anakin Skywalker showed up. Oh, he has a lightsaber. Oh, they're fighting. Oh, it's a callback to the Clone Wars. Once again, you idiots were wrong about your theories. You were wrong about thinking that this was going to be some sort of like mega new thing that we saw. All it did was gave me confusion. Now you might be asking why? Why, AhSoKa, are you confused? What is there to be confused about? This story is great. I mean, these are the same people that think that episode 4 was actually good. When it wasn't, y'all got distracted. That's what it happens when you're a Disney Star Wars fan. So to go through a quick recap, we're going to go over AhSoKa's story first. She wakes up in what appears to be the world between worlds. Anakin Skywalker is there to teach her one last lesson on being a Jedi. They get into a lightsaber duel, and his lightsaber is actually blue in this first fight. He tells her you have to either choose to live or to die. Honestly, I'm not really sure what the lesson here is. It's kind of vague, and it doesn't make a lot of sense. AhSoKa was already not dying everywhere she went. Every single show, every single place that she shows up, she didn't die. So I don't know what the lesson that Anakin was trying to teach her in this little instance. Then there's a trip down memory lane to when we see a young AhSoKa played by a younger actress in the Clone Wars. Now, I'm going to admit, I actually was like, okay, this was kind of cool. I actually dig this. I really enjoyed the flashbacks to the Clone Wars. I do. I found some sort of joy in watching that because I am a Clone Wars fan. I liked it growing up. I liked watching this. So I actually didn't mind live action Clone Wars. It kind of made me feel a little bit of joy. However, Hayden Christensen, oh, by the way, Hayden Christensen, props to him. He did such a phenomenal job doing this that I actually was like, you know what? This put a smile on my face. I'm happy. This made me kind of happy, okay? I'll admit it. I'll be the piece of shit of the day and admit that, okay? But he's doing his impression of Matt Lanter from the Clone Wars instead of his own Anakin from the movies, which kind of makes this a little bit confusing to me. Because how I see Anakin as he was in the prequels as Hayden played him is vastly different from how Matt Lanter played him or voiced him in the Clone Wars. So if you're to watch this in chronological order from Attack of the Clones to this episode to Revenge of the Sith, there's a weird progression there. But it did one of two things. One, it confused me because I'm like, well, which Anakin is more Anakin, if that makes sense? Which one is a more Anakin portrayal out of these portrayals? And it kind of made me only want a live action Clone Wars to kind of elaborate on how Hayden Christensen goes from Attack of the Clones to Revenge of the Sith with that little mixed in area of the Clone Wars in between. It kind of made me want to see that. Having said that, I don't want them to actually kind of do it because I know they're going to find some way to fuck it up. But the Clone Wars sequences were really good, and I found them quite enjoyable. The problem with them, though, is that they're full of empty dialogue that doesn't make any sense. It's obviously like some sort of dream sequence. In fact, this entire episode we find out that we don't really know what's going on. It's not really the world between worlds. It's not really the force, the living force. It's like a dream. It's like a dream sequence. It's like Ebenezer Scrooge getting talked to from the ghosts of Christmas present, past, and future. It's basically a Christmas carol for AhSoKa, but Anakin is the ghost of Christmas past, present, and future, all wrapped in one. There were some clips of Vader in there too that I actually didn't mind either. The fading in and out of Vader to Anakin, I thought that was kind of cool. And then when he pulled out the red lightsaber and had the red Sith eyes and started fighting Ahsoka in the what looked like to be World Between Worlds, I thought that was fucking cool. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I was like, hey, people want to see this stuff. This is what we want to see. So finally, they delivered on something that the theorists could, sit there and jerk off to. They mentioned the Siege of Mandalore, which was from the season 7 finale of the Clone Wars, those last couple episodes. And so it was kind of weird to throw that in there, but I guess it doesn't really matter. And I have to criticize the set of the Clone Wars flashbacks because they were very foggy and they were meant to kind of cover up what the actual set was going to look like, because I'm pretty sure they don't have the money or attention span to make it look like the actual set from what it was before. However, on the flip side of that, what makes it kind of interesting and a little bit good is that it actually looks like an actual battle. That's what an actual battlefield would look like. A lot of fog and smoke and dead bodies. So I have to say, I dug that. I kind of like that. Yeah, listen to me shill for Disney Star Wars. Fuck those people. But no, legitimately, I found joy watching this episode. And I feel like if Dave Filoni or Jon Favreau or whoever at Lucasfilm managed to do more stuff like this, then maybe Disney Star Wars wouldn't be in the critical condition that it's in right now. And this is where I get to not being so nice to the show again. See, the end of the lesson here that Anakin was supposed to be teaching Ahsoka was that it was supposed to be live or die. It was a very vague lesson that he was teaching her. But I guess that she just told him to fuck off, and then he fucked off and he said, oh, I guess you learned something. I don't know if that was meant to be some sort of intersectional feminist message that they were trying to pour in there, but it really felt like it, and it felt kind of unnecessary. And I think at the end of the day, what this is and all it kind of ever will be is a big distraction from what the story is supposed to be focusing on. All we know is that Ahsoka came out differently, but we don't actually know what she learned. We don't know what she went through. We haven't really been explained in any sort of way. In fact, it feels like you have to watch the Clone Wars and Rebels to understand a lot of what's going on in the show, and this episode absolutely proves it. However, to Dave Filoni's credit, he uses things from the Clone Wars and Rebels to really pay off in the end, to make it feel like, well, all those years of being a fan has actually paid off in watching this show. And I can appreciate that. However, people who haven't seen those shows are not going to know what the hell's going on half the time. Like when Ahsoka uses the Force to talk to a Purgle whale, or when she uses the Force to do like a CSI scan of the Cetos seance thing. I guess this is the part where she comes out as like Ahsoka the White or something like that. I don't really know. Like, they don't explain what she goes through. It must have been a dream sequence or something, but they don't really explain it. All we know is that, well, Ahsoka's smiling now. She doesn't cross her arms as much. It's just kind of bizarre that they took us on this little mini trip for 20 minutes and didn't really explain what it was or what it was for, other than it was a big key jangling, cameo, throwback nostalgia distraction to kind of keep you occupied from criticizing the show. Even if I did enjoy it, I will still acknowledge that that's what it felt like. It felt like they were taking us out of the bullshit that the story was and putting us into something we actually enjoyed. And it's kind of weird that Lucasfilm only does this in spurts. They only do fan service in little nuggets over time. It makes you kind of appreciate the fan service, but I guess that's why all these people love these cameos and these little Easter eggs and all this other bullshit. It's because they're so swamped with a bunch of crap all the time that whenever they get one bit of fan service, they cherish it the best they can. So I think I can understand that. But people who like Disney Star Wars tend to overlook the absolute flaws that a lot of this stuff has, and they think that it's all good. No, you're swimming in crap. It just so happens that they dropped a giant golden nugget right on top of you that you could cherish and think that the show is, freaking awesome because of it. How I know that this show is still garbage is because we go to the Hera section of the show, where basically Hera brought her son Jason like Why, girl? Why are you bringing Jason to like a dangerous mission that's unauthorized? It was convenient for her because her son has the Force and she can sense AhSoKa fighting in the distance in the ocean or whatever. But they don't really explain how. I mean, he has the Force, but they don't really explain how like he can hear the lightsabers, where she is, or what the fuck is even going on there. But once Hera and Jason and whoever else rescue AhSoKa after God knows 30 minutes of busy work trying to find her doing stupid shit, hovering over the ocean, I thought that was really dumb and kind of redundant to keep on doing this busy work to find AhSoKa while she was in the middle of this little dream sequence. But that's kind of the flaw that the show has. It's a lot of busy work, a lot of nothing happening, a lot of bullshit that doesn't make any sense. And in between there, some good stuff, some actually good stuff that they choose to not prioritize, that they choose to ignore so they can do their fucking busy work to pad out the runtime. Because this felt like a movie that was stretched out in 6 episodes when it should have just been a fucking movie. Once they find AhSoKa, they pull her out of the water. She's done with the dream sequence, basically after stepping on Anakin's balls, I guess. And then it's about, well, how do we get to find Ezra, Thrawn, Sabine, everybody else? How do we get to find them, right? How do we follow them into this other galaxy? There's a moment where Hera is rejected by Mon Mothma and the New Republic, and they say, well, your unauthorized mission caused some trouble. We're coming to arrest you. That, I'll admit, that's how you progress a story. That's how you show there are consequences for actions. That's what you're supposed to do with storytelling. Just FYI. So, time is of the essence now. It feels like there's a story going on here. It finally feels like there's something happening 5 episodes into the show. So, AhSoKa figures out that after she smiles and not crosses her arms as much, that, well, we should use the Purgle Wells to follow the ships into this separate galaxy to find Ezra and Thrawn. So they go up to the whales. She does a little bit of talking to the whales, and then she does her best Pinocchio impression and flies into the whale's mouth so they can hyperspeed jump into the next galaxy. So that's sort of a short rundown of the plot with a few criticisms and compliments here and there. But overall, I felt like this was an enjoyable episode. I didn't hate it. I actually kind of enjoyed it. I'll admit that. So to all the people who are like showing up in my comments and like, you know, saying, oh, you don't understand TV. Oh, you're a fat incel. Oh, you don't understand Star Wars, you bigot. Fuck all of y'all. All right. Fuck every single one of you because you don't understand television. You don't understand Star Wars. You sit there and you slop up mediocre crap all the time. I'm actually now feeling the need to sort of root for this show. Even though they really don't deserve it, I still think Dave Filoni's a fucking pussy. But you know what? If Dave Filoni can somehow manage to save Star Wars, then you know what? Maybe I'll come back. Maybe I will someday. But chances are, it's not likely going to happen because Obi-Wan Kenobi still exists. The sequel trilogy still exists. Their Twitter account, all the times they've attacked fans, firing Gina Carano, Pablo Hidalgo being on Twitter, whatever the fuck it is, it still exists to make me not forget. I can't forget that stuff just because I liked one episode. So no, fuck Lucasfilm and fuck Disney. But at the end of the day, if Dave Filoni pulls off a miracle and is managing to save Star Wars, then good on him. Maybe he can bring someone like me back. And I'll root for him if that's the case. But until then, I'm not very impressed. If I were to rate this episode, I'd say it was a solid 6 or 7 out of 10. I'll be fair. I did like it. But I still think Dave Filoni's a pussy. I still think Star Wars is dead. I think all the people who thought that Anakin was either a Force ghost or he went into the world between worlds or he was a manifestation of the brother from the Clone Wars, or not the brother, the son from the Clone Wars, y'all were wrong about your theories again. Sorry. For all the strengths that this episode had, the AhSoKa stuff, the Clone Wars flashbacks, Anakin, Hayden Christensen being Anakin was such a joy to watch. And I'm kind of happy to see him do his best Matt Lanter Anakin in this episode. I didn't mind that, and I actually kind of enjoyed it, but I was kind of confused. However, Hera's part of the episode is where there's this heart of this problem it lies. It's that the show is mediocre, it's stupid, it's unnecessary, and it needs to sort of get a move on with the story, which it sort of kind of has a little bit, and I'll admit that. That's just my take. This was a bit of a mixed bag. There's still a lot of animosity and hatred amongst the Star Wars fan base, and you know what? fuck Lucasfilm. I'll say it again, because they don't really deserve the benefit of the doubt. I don't think this is going to save Star Wars, but it was fun to watch. I did like the episode. So if people want to get mad at me for having that sort of opinion, they can go fuck themselves. But anyway, that was just some quick thoughts, reaction after the episode. I kind of want to see what happens next week. Maybe something good will happen. I don't know. But until then, everybody go like, subscribe, comment, share, do all that fun stuff. If Star Wars can be saved, let it be saved. If not, I don't give a fuck. Everybody go take care, drive safe, do what makes you happy, don't smoke crack.